Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off, guys. So if you want to, I think everybody grab their seat. Want to thank everybody for coming out today to kick off our first user group meeting of 2019. And I really appreciate the good turnout today. So first of all, I guess in the audience, I'm just curious, is it just by show of hands, has anybody never been to a user group meeting before at Ronald's company? So we have 3, 4, okay, good. So we've got some new faces in here. First, quick introductions. My name is David Newt, and I'm a Reynolds company automation specialist. And I'll be doing some of the presentation today, as well as some of my colleagues, so we can go around the room and introduce the Reynolds Rockwell folks.
Hi, I'm Mike Masterson, also an automation specialist. I work with David here with Reynolds company.
Afternoon, guys. My name is Steve Ramos. I'm the solution architect for Rockwell. Joe Golaski, one of the automation specialists here at Reynolds.
Andrew Bolton, I'm the service specialist here at Reynolds. Brian Pesca, I'm another automation specialist at the Reynolds company.
Kevin Peterson, industrial specialist.
Garrett Reeves, sales guy, Reynolds company. Oh wait, that's okay. Stop. Okay, I think all the important people. Just kidding. Anyway, so we got a good group today. Today, to kick off the year, like we normally do, we're going to give kind of a general automation update for 2019. So we're going to talk a little bit about controllers and I/O today, visualization, HMIs, software, networking, and some of the automation programming software. So what we're trying to do is talk about things that are new, either have just been released or maybe just about to be released in the next 30 days, and give you an idea of what's, kind of what's coming this year. This is one, we generally have one of these meetings every month. So today is a little bit of a high level jump. It's the next months we pick topics and go into a little more detail. But today we're going to do kind of an overview. So, and
for all the newbies in the room, feel free to ask questions as we go through. If we don't want to answer it, we'll tell you to go out. But feel free. The veterans, you guys know how this works.
Yeah.
Well, let's clarify something. Is there anyone who's new to this meeting who's going to ask how much longer the PLC 5 is going to be around? That question coming today. All right, we're good.
Okay, so the first topic today is Studio 5000 update. So like I said, we're in the next couple of months, we're going to have a user group specifically just on Studio 5000. So today we're going to kind of keep it high level on the 5000 update. But this slide, if you've been here before, you've seen this before. This is a good kind of overview of where we sit and the different versions that we're encouraging or supporting customers to actively use. So the current version that we're on is version 32, and that just came out very end of last year. Kind of my comment is that the paint is still a little bit wet on this version. Today it supports the 5580 processors, which is the high performance control logics. The L7s and the 5370s will be supported next month. So this is very new, brand new release software. Me personally, I'm I haven't quite installed this one yet on my computer. So this is it's current, but it's kind of very early. Version 31 is kind of our we have that bolded, so that's a release that we support. It's got pretty much all the functionality that you would need to do your controls. It's got redundancy. It's got the Logix Emulate version 31 just came out, so it has Emulate as well, so you can emulate your control programs with it. Of course, version 30 is still out there, supported. Version 24 was the Plant PAX 4.0 release, so that's kind of a major release. And it now supports Windows 10, Windows 16. So if you're using that 24, you're in good shape. Version 20 is still a bold release, mostly because version 20 supports some of the legacy hardware. So if you have your L6s, your older control logics, and the L7s, version 20.05 is the release release that you need to be running on. So until you migrate those L6s, version 20 is the last version that supports those legacy controls. And of course, we have our Logix 500.
Safety releases 30, the latest?
For the still two?
Yes.
30. They're working on a 31. Our main go-to has always been 20, but then you can go up to 30, 31 will be on there for still 2 processing. And one of the big questions we usually get is just recommendations on what version of Studio to start off with. So if you guys are starting off a new project and you're able to use newer controllers, you have no legacy products, right now I would recommend you to stick to 31. So 32 is out. There's a couple of things that we'll talk about as far as what 32 brings to the table, but 31 is our Flat PX release. So documentation wise, everything that you can find on the knowledge base is all centered around 31. So that would be my go-to release, especially in process. It does support redundancy right now, so that gives you a plus there. And you can use both the L8s and the L7. If you're at 32, like David mentioned, right now we only support the L8s. In a month, we'll have firmware release that comes out for the L7 family, and at that point, you can migrate it up. So if you guys are starting a project and you need to use 32, you can start the program now and then just change the controller to an L7 when it's ready. And then 20 is still your go-to if you have the L6s, as you mentioned. So, and your license works for all versions. So if you're on a Windows 10 box, you can have 20, 24, 30, 31, and 32 all installed in the same box. That's not an issue. Anything that's in between that has not been tested by Rockwell for Windows 10. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but as you guys know, if we didn't test it, we can't really give you the seal of approval on it.
And one other quick thing before we go to the next slide. We're hung up here. Thanks to Louis, L8 redundancy. We're looking at 2020, probably first quarter. So we're not going to see it this year.
But that also means that all redundancy right now is only on the L7. That is critical for you guys to know. So if you're looking at any projects that are going to be past summer timeframe of 2020, we can start looking at designs now for an L8 redundancy. But if we are looking at something that needs to be out and shipped by like the end of the year, stick to L7 redundancy as of right now.
Okay, next slide. So this is kind of reviewed a lot of you, but maybe not so much for the new folks. So as part of the Studio 5000 design environment, it's not just your logic control, logic programming. First of all, the architect environment. So the show of hands, anybody's used architect? A few, more or more. So so the architect incorporates not just the controllers, but also the HMI and the networking environment together. One of the nice things about the architect environment is you can take a design project in Integrated Architecture Builder and import it into Studio 5000 Architect. You can also manage and look at your system more as a whole with the architect environment. So that's part of Studio 5000. And of course, the Logic Designer software is the heart of Studio 5000. All of your compact logics and control logics are programmed here. And then the next one, the View Designer environment. So this environment may not be that familiar to a lot of you guys, even though it's been out for a while. We're on version 5 of this today. The View Designer is the programming environment that programs the PanelView 5000 product. So we'll talk a little bit about that today, later, but that's on version 5, so that's kind of progressing along. The PanelView 5000 is the kind of the newest PanelView product line. It's got very tight integration with Logix, and we'll talk more about that later. Application Code Manager. By show of hands, I'm real curious. Any integrators out there that use Application Code Manager? One, you win. What you win, I'm not sure. But it's
I would say another lunch break we ran.
Application Code Manager is a really powerful tool, and it's on version 3 today. That allows you to, in a bulk way, in a large way, read use your existing code. And we'll talk more about that when we get in, maybe in a month, we have our in-depth Studio 5000 review. But there's a lot of tools with Application Code Manager, allows you to use the process objects. It also incorporates HMI code and pulls it all together without actually having to understand and write the code yourself. So there's a lot of benefits to Application Code Manager. And then of course, Logic Emulate. The Emulate software has been out for a long time, and Rockwell keeps that in lockstep with the Logix Designer versions. So you can emulate your code without actually having to have the hardware next to you, connected to it. But yeah, question.
I have a question regarding that. Is that software now a supported product in the workflow?
Logix.
We mentioned we're trying to use it for strong applications, but in the past, 25,000 emulate. They were saying it was not a commercial product to use.
I don't know, that's a police question.
I'm trying to think of what we told you first. Yeah, so it's supported with the biggest issue that we had was we didn't have 31 support for a while. So that just came out about a month ago. We're working on 32. The big thing with Emulate is it supports a control Logix environment, not a compact Logix. So we don't have a compact Logix style Emulate or guard Logix or an L8.
Or like we have our very PLC L8 kind of using
Yeah.
And so we have that bug in there, and we want to get Rockwell to the
Yeah, and in your, for everybody else, it kind of information. On your case, we gave you a beta.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so 31 is out now. That's the one that we had to get you early.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so if we haven't, we'll relook at that.
But we need to use 31 on the PLC code as well, right?
And so the last on the list here is Studio 5000 simulation interface. So this is different than Emulate. This is a new product that will allows Logix connection to simulation software, which would generally be third-party simulation type software like a MATLAB or software of that nature. And I don't know a whole lot about that because I think that this was just released in version 32, so it's brand new. We're going to talk more about the simulation interface in our in-depth Studio 5000.
Is that a separate license?
I believe I think it's built into the Studio 5000 license. Release. What was that? The simulation interface, is that a separate license or is that included?
It will be. It'll be part of MATLAB and Simulink, so we'll have that as an add-on. I'm not entirely sure as far as if we're fully charging or if it will be part of a tool. If you have like a full version of Studio 5000, I'll find it.
But when would that be available?
We have it set for within the next 2 months.
That's only 32.
So it's coming out with 32. My understanding is it's going to be backwards compatible. I just don't know if they're top bar.
Yeah, that's the new stuff. So we'll
And like David mentioned, the user group that we have coming up soon, that'll be full 32. And most of those tools and utility will be in that in-depth.
Okay, so a little bit more on the Application Code Manager. So this is what it looks like for those of you that haven't seen it. Essentially, what this tool allows you to do, it's a plugin directly into Logix Designer, but allows you to easily generate standard application code kind of in a bulk way and a way to manage it. And it's Logix, it's HMI, and it also gives you access to Rockwell's design object library objects. So there's the process Logix library and the machine library, fully integrated with this tool. It's a nice tool, especially for software developers, such that if you've got a large project or you've got a large team, the person that operates Application Code Manager doesn't necessarily have to fully understand the code that they're building and constructing inside a controller. Once that someone else can be building that code, so it's a time saver, engineering and SI type of product. And there's some, I guess, some updates to that. Rockwell has changed their licensing a little bit. So there's a light version that's available at no cost to kind of try and look at. There's the network version that does have a cost associated with this product. The next slide. So like I said, Application Code Manager is on a version 3.0 release, current, the latest. So some of the new things on 3.0, there's some additional content on the library links. You can link between the parent and child relationships with your code. You can go back and forth. You can go from the parent to the child. You can update the child and then send it back to the parent as well. There's also a new command line console, and so you can run batches. You can do scripts, adding code instead of actually having to use the GUI interface. So that's new. It's added support for library artifacts. So what we mean by that is you can attach other files to your libraries, like PDFs or Excel spreadsheets or something like that. Also, there's support now for Logix Tag-based Alarms, which you'll see is a theme today. That's a big new technology that Rockwell's released to greatly streamline how alarms are handled in the controller. So the application code manager supports that.
So one example of that is if you guys wanted to nest a couple of AOIs, let's say take a border template. In most cases, in application code manager, you build out your individuals, and that associates to the graphics or the historian alarms. Now you're going to be able to nest those together and actually associate the entire thing. All the dependencies for the UDTs, AOIs, as you build bigger structures, will also come along as part of application code manager. So you're going to be able to do things a lot faster, even from what you were able to do in the past. So that's
okay. So moving on. So the 332 release summary. This is a slide. This kind of an overview slide, but this, if you can see the screenshot there. If you haven't used version 31 yet, this screenshot may look a little bit different to you. The version 31, Rockwell changed the GUI a little bit, and so that follows through with version 32. Slight changes, I would say, not major changes, but there are some, I think, some improvements that are done around the control environment in the code environment. That's pretty much it for that slide. So at a high level summary of version 32, there's been some extended data types that we now support up to 64-bit math for extreme high resolution. And then tag-based alarms. So there's been some enhancements there. Again, the details will follow. The FBD. I'm not sure. Oh, thanks for that. But there was somebody else with the controls behind me. The function block diagram has been kind of that interface has been updated and enhanced. There's also some new FBD functions. And phase manager for you batch folks, phase manager support is now in version 32. And that's good timing, it actually worked. Quick review of logic-based alarms. So this was introduced in version 31. As you can see from the diagram and a little bit of the overview here, what the difference is in the past, you use the ALMA block and the ALMT block to do alarms. You had to put that in your code. If you know those blocks were quite heavy, they took up a lot of memory. They could do anything you could dream of, but I think there was the logic-based alarms takes some of that same functionality and takes it out of the logic code and puts it in a configuration type of system. So you don't have to put any of the alarms in your code. It's basically configured in a table, and you get the same or similar functionality. And the benefits are you're greatly reducing the amount of memory used in a program. It communicates fully with FactoryTalk Alarm and Events, which has also been updated and fully integrated with USC and Viewpoint. So how do we do this? Well, the FactoryTalk Logix-based tag alarms are only available in what we call the high performance controllers, because those are we're able to take the alarm logic and put that in a separate CPU. It runs separately from the logic. And so you can't do that with the L7s, only the L8s and the 5380s and the 5580 logics.
So the same way that you would do the HMI-based alarms in the past, with the alarm events where you have the ability to export and import from Excel, you can now do that to the controller level. The ALMAs, ALMDs will stay as instruction-based. They're still heavier than your standard alarming. So limitation-wise, if you got to remember the past, we tell you in L7, we can do about 250 alarms per controller. That was kind of our recommended max. The differentiation point there is if you're using the instruction-based, it's based off the run time date stamp. So as you're going through the logics, it goes through, if that ALMD triggers, you're getting a time and date stamp pushed through the HMI down to the millisecond when that triggers. With the Logix Tag-based, they'll only work in an L8 or 5380 family. It's still being pushed from the controller. Instruction-based, you can actually do a bulk edit via Excel, but it's a 500 millisecond task that is running in the background. So every 500 milliseconds, it goes to check to see if any of those alarms are triggered. You can nest the alarms, so you have the benefit of being able to now put logic around the tags, so that if you have, let's say again, boiler as an example, if you have a bunch of alarms that are inside of your boiler, you want to map that up to one boiler alarm. You have the ability now to be able to do that pretty easily with the Logix, or even some code inside of the HMI without having to do a DB script or anything like that. But your limitation there is a 500 millisecond.
Half a second.
A half a second. Now, you can still marry all three different types of alarms. So you can still have the instruction based for your really critical alarms. You can have the Logix Tag based if you have enough memory. They do still take up a decent amount of memory, but it's only a fraction of the instruction set. If you're moving to an L8 style, you have plenty of room in there. Make sure to add another egg to your controller to be able to count. You can do much more than 1,000 alarms. So there's no limitation there other than the memory of your controller. And then you can still use the essentially the HMI alarm events tag structure. At that point, we're looking at 10,000 alarms. You're pulling from the HMI at that point. You're not pushing from the controller, but everything that we do from a Plant PX side, so all of the process library objects, those are using that style of HMI alarm. You can have all three on one system. The operators won't know where they're coming from. So just as you guys look at what you're doing, those are the kind of use cases. If you have questions, just let us know.
Okay, and FactoryTalk Updater. So this is also new. This is kind of a consolidated notification of new versions and patch rollups. It takes whatever is installed on your system and puts it all in this one area. So you've got your FactoryTalk, your Studio 5000 links, etc., all in one place. And so it.
This is something we should have done a while back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if there is patch rollups that are available, it will show up here. You don't have to install them. It's just a notification.
What version are supported?
So it came installed with a newer version of FactoryTalk service platform. My understanding is that it should be able to find anything previous, at least for the versioning, but that functionality will only happen with the newer version of the service platform. I can find out what the lower than this.
Please let me know.
Yeah.
So just in case of notification, right? That you, of the new version.
Yeah, essentially, think of it as just you can launch this utility and it gives you a little audit of what you have in the system. And if you do have connectivity to the internet, it'll let you know if there's any patches that you're missing, or it'll let you know what patches you already have installed.
Okay. Good to go get them.
Just go get them. So you don't have to tell you what the scalpel package is called.
If you want.
I haven't tested it.
What it says.
That's what it's supposed to do. I haven't tested it.
Is that 32 and you have to install
So it's not tied to 32, but it is tied to the service platform, one of the new rules. So I'll find out what the limit is and how far back you can go.
Meaning it should be installed also if you install FactoryTalk USE, right? Not just Studio 5000.
If you,
Yeah.
and for everybody in the room, most of the time what we end up doing is, and I've told people this in the past, for us to release hardware, we normally release software. So what you'll see is, in most cases, when we have a big release of like a Studio 5000 or some big rev, in most cases, that's when we're able to release a lot of hardware. And that also ties in with some of the tools that come in play. Most of the tools that we do for software are backwards compatible, but they only become available when that first initial release comes out. So all of that is available via the compatibility website that we have to download for free. This is going to be one of those, but if you install any new software that has a newer services platform on it, this would be an option as one of the tools to download. So I'll get you guys information as far as what the limitations are and what we can download.
Pass it over to Mike.
Thank you. Wrong direction.
Yeah.
All right, today I'm going to talk a little bit of where we stand on the hardware. There weren't a lot of changes, but some of the things we talked about last year are now available. Now we're looking across our platform line. One thing you do notice is we're not throwing slicks up there and MicroLogix have disappeared. Anybody who's currently using MicroLogix right now for anything, and this probably won't affect a lot of people, use the 1400 and that's it. The 1100 and 1200 will be going away this year. The 1400 will be hanging around. So other than that, if you have small controller needs, we'd like you to take a look at the Micro 800, and we're more than willing to work with on you. We'll give you controllers to play with. So if you want to get used to it, it is a different software platform. It does use the CCW software, which is free, but the 1100 and 1200 are going away. Just want to make you aware. As far as that, we're following suit. We've added some material to our compact Logix line. The Advance is still our SIL 3 solution, but it is still a services delivered solution unless you buy it in a pre-configured SIL 3.
Yeah, we have a
Positive
small
diagram.
50 or 100 point system that you just essentially buy the pre-configured cabinet called DSIS. That one's just kind of an off the shelf. It's already pre-configured. But anything else, we'll just do it via our services.
Okay. Compact Logix, the L32, any of these, the second generation compact Logix, which would be the L32Es, the 35Es, those will be going away this year. So that's the platforms that would go between below version 20 of 5000. So it sort of fit that realm of supported the older hardware.
Those are the versions that still have the serial port on it and only have a single Ethernet module or port. So you'll start seeing notifications go out. We usually give you guys 2 years so that the notification will go out. And I think the official date is sometime in 2020.
It's December 2020. I actually, the letter is out and I do have a copy.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we do the transition. So we go from active mature to discontinue to end of life. So you'll start seeing that transition go forward on it. In most cases, the 5370 or the 5380 can be drop-in replacements, but we are looking at a newer version of Studio. So if you guys have that and we have some type of life cycle, just have us look at it. We'll take a look at the bill of material.
There's no issues with the products listed there. 5370 being the third generation compact Logix. The first one supported DLR, still available. It still comes in brick type POs. So it has the L16, L18, which have pre-built IO in it of 16DI, 16DO, and I think a few analog, up to the one that's 3 meg in memory.
Actually, it goes up to 5 now.
Oh, 5? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we have the 5380, which we have one in our demo room, and I have some of the IO port here with me. That's where we're pushing people to start with now on compact Logix, especially when we get over the 660 IO points. It's where we want people to go to. Unique feature about that, it does require 5069 IO, which some of you might not have seen before, but it's very well built and small, has LED lights so you can see where your issues are. But more importantly, it has 2 Ethernet ports, and these can be either set for DLR, which means they're on the same network, or they need to be split to 2 different networks. So finally, we have our separation between networks that we've wanted for our compact Logix for a while. Now, who wants that 3rd Ethernet port for the compact Logix? Anybody? That card still doesn't exist yet. Because I got asked about it yesterday. Now we're talking about the 5480, and I think we have a slide that will talk specifically to it. A few users groups ago, I spoke about it in a disparaging way. I take it back. It's a very good product. What this is, 5480 has Windows built into it. So it is a computer. Problem in our environment, the same things apply. It's not class 1 div 2, so it takes out a lot of our jobs. And it's got some power things. It does have a UPS built into it. So you just don't unplug it from power. So, just to let you know, if this does fit the bill for you, you think you do have an application for it, we'll gladly talk to you about it. But we'll go into a little bit more depth in a second on that one. And yes. List price, $17,985.
How many?
Yes, I looked it up yesterday. List price, $17,897.22.
It is well, we got the slide, but it's a 20 meg controller. I'll let you see the spec.
Now, there's a lot to it, but you better find the right application because we do have an alternative to it. You can always use a control Logix with a compute module. So we're going in that direction. No big differences in the 5570s. Everything is pretty much the same. It's still our machine safety controller up to SIL 3. 5580, again, we don't have redundancy for it yet. So in our market, we haven't actively been pushing it for everything. If you have a simplex application now, we're perfectly fine with the 5580. In fact, I know a lot of you guys are testing and stuff because you're stealing our demos.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking to test, let us know. We're getting close enough to redundancy where the L8 is starting to become a true reality for us in our industry. So we're pushing it more and more, specifically on the OEM side, system integrators, but also we're starting to look at it for end users. Not everybody needs redundancy, so we have a play there. When redundancy comes in, it's going to be the exact same hardware. So we're not going to have to swap out to a Series C or anything to that effect. One of the other things that you guys will see, and we're going to be talking about it more throughout the year, is the 62443 for cybersecurity. We will have that certification. And we're going to have architecture design specifically around the L8 and something called SIP security that we'll bring up and roll out, being able to do encryption down to the card level.
Now, is anyone not familiar with the L8 controllers or the 5580s? Anybody at all? Okay. So, you know, it's more magical than just having a gigabit port in front of it. All right. Our new communications module. I'm going to have to let Carlos talk to it. Sorry, that's good.
Somebody started calling me Carlos. So one of the things that you'll see here, and again, this kind of ties into it. So as we start looking at what we call SIP security at Automation Fair, they talk about this quite a bit. So as we start getting into different architectures and the ability of being able to look at confidentiality, availability, things of that nature, the EN4TR will be coming out in March timeframe. It does not specifically replace the 2TR, but you are gonna see those products go active mature. So eventually this is gonna take over, especially once we get redundancy for the L8 family. Out of the box, this will do exactly the same thing as the EN3R or EN3TR, as far as the number of connections, the ability of being able to do the motion side of it. But the big difference is you have a 1 gig port on the front of it instead of just 100 meg. So as we start seeing all of the high performance architectures, Flex 5000, Compact Logix, the L8, all of that is at a gig. The 5380 Compact Logix, all of that is at a gig. So we'll be able to support DLR through all of the remote IO pieces at a gig as well. And then one of the things that you'll start seeing is future releases on that. One big one that you guys might care about, redundant adapters. We're going to be looking at the ability of being able to put 2 Ethernet modules in the same chassis and do failover without having to do code.
Redundant star.
Thank you. The ability of being able to do PRP. So for anybody that has seen that in the past with us in the user groups, PRP is parallel redundancy. So we'll have a firmware update that will allow you to do both the device level ring or PRP, that parallel redundancy, on the same module. So either on the same network or completely 2 different LANs, kind of like control net. So just be aware that that will be coming out.
So this is why I sort of punted to you. I'm assuming this will act as a 5380 that you can actually, if it's supporting PRP in a flash upgrade down the road, you can actually assign 2 different IPs to it.
No,
Okay. But I didn't say that.
See what happens when you assume something? Yeah, so to his point, one of the options that we have with the 5380, which makes it so popular, is the fact that we can give it 2 separate IP addresses. Right now, this will not give us that ability. You want 2 IP addresses, you need 2 cards. So just something to look at, but like I said, we will start coming out with a lot of different architectures that I'll be pushing to you guys just so you can see them. And we do have a user group and a couple of different customer events that we're trying out for the year that will be focused on cybersecurity.
and we're plugging my SMPs.
We are working on that. But
We'll address that too. So
yeah, his question is essentially, can we do SFPs? We are working on it. They're actually talking about making the 4TR an SFP version as well. In normal Rockwell fashion, we come out with the first version and the second release will have the fun feature sets that we want. So, but they are looking at that to be able to give us SFPs, both at the L8 side and also to the communication cards. Usable, yes. The ability of being able to tie into anything that's high performance, no. So it wouldn't necessarily make that much sense as of right now. You'd probably be better off if you're using an L7 family to use the EN2TRs.
My goal is just eliminate the cap connections. So I'm really care about the speed and what.
So by the time that, and this is just me being honest, by the time that we have SFPs at the module level, we will be at a default L8. I will tell you that. So it's going to cost you more money to use an L7 in that form factor. So, but yes, that would be kind of the goal, being able to do that. This is what Mike had referred to as vaporware in the past. The caveat, as you mentioned, so the list price on it, it is a 20 meg controller. So if you look at the Compact Logix family, the top end that we have for a 53 high performance Compact Logix is 10 megs. This gives you 20. So this places you squarely in between about an 83 and an 84 processor for control logic. It is a full computer. There is complete segregation between the computer and the processor for the controller, and it is an i7 style chip. So speed-wise, the reason why we have this out is for high-speed OEM manufacturing.
and it supports 3 different networks.
Yes. So there's one card dedicated to the computer, which is running a Windows 10 system, or you can get it in Linux. It will have 3 dedicated communication ports for the controller. DLR, redundant configuration. So you essentially have one network for your I/O and one network upstream to like a DCS, let's say. So 4 ports in total. It has the connection for DisplayPort So if anybody has seen it at Automation Fair, essentially what they're doing is launching Studio 5000 and FactoryTalk View directly on the computer. You can close it inside of a cabinet, you connect it to a monitor, you have everything that you need to be able to remotely program and do anything with that system. For an $18,000 processor, that is not what you would be using it for. I can tell you that much right now. So if anybody is interested in this, it is out. We will be more than happy to sell it to you. But it does not have class 1 div 2 because it does have removable fans. And we are looking from a business unit point of view to see about scaling this down to something smaller that our industry can actually support. But what we would want you to look at, is you can go to the next one, is a compute module.
Can I go back 1 second?
Yeah.
I just wanted to, for $18,000, we're still charging you for these terminal blocks here. Just want to make sure you heard it.
Actually,
I just brought that up because I sold a 5380 and I forgot to include the terminal
I
blocks.
think they've added.
Bad. No, it's a separate line item. I checked yesterday. By the way, your managers don't listen to our podcast, do they? Our stream. All
I
right.
don't. Chris might. So if you are looking at something where you want to be able to have the software local without having to have a computer on site, we are able to do this as a class 1 div 2. This sits in chassis for control Logix and it's running Windows 10, or you can also do a Linux Debian system. So it is running a Atom-based processor. So if you don't need too much when it comes to horsepower, this can go directly in. It is not $18,000. So I'll let you guys. Yeah, 17. I'm kidding. No, it's close. I don't know what the list price is, but it's less than 10. So what that does is at least gives you the ability of being able to do that. In that case, it does make sense to be able to load up Studio 5000, make it remote desktop, even have a historian interface directly on that module instead of the historian module itself. And then by the end of the year, we will see a newer version of the compute module with more horsepower. So you'll have the option of the Atom-based processor, or you'll have something a little closer to an i7-based processor in chassis. So just be aware, we'll get you guys some more information as that comes out.
What's the hard drive?
13, I believe. And it's essentially a solid state.
4 gig RAM?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I skipped over a slide that showed the general overview of our I/O platforms, but I want to talk about the 5069 I/O, which is for the Compact Logix 5380, but it's also its own standalone product. So again, it's a very high density product up to, I believe, 31 modules in a lineup. So a lot more effective than the older version 1769 I/O. We have just added a serial card, Modbus and ASCII out of that card now. So that is available, and it's not a ProSoft card, it's a Rockwell card. The safety I/O you see there will be, for the 5069, will be available second quarter, third quarter, I believe.
The serials available now?
Yeah.
What's the part number on the?
5069, I believe, SER or serial.
I think it's 5069 serial.
Yeah, 5069-0.
It is Modbus RTU, not Modbus TCP/IP.
Are you doing a TCP?
We are working on it. It should have been out. It hasn't. So my assumption as of right now is probably the end of the year.
Our vendors and vendor partners understand, you know, they're having developed for a new piece of plastic, so
And
it
then
will become.
the 1769 processor, just the same.
No, that one, the series?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one just with the regular.
Yeah. It's going to be working on the newer generation stuff because it's made for specifically for the 5380, the newer gen.
It'll work with the safety one as well, but if you can use it down with any of the 5380 processors.
But not.
Not with the older generation.
The 5069 IO, we can connect to 5580 series controller.
Yes.
It can be remote I/O to it. There are comms adapters for the 5069 because it really, makes good sense to have it because it is a small, dense product.
Yeah.
So-
Whatever.
And before he goes into this, just to kind of jump on that comment, so again, when we're looking at the high performance, that's the L8 to the 5380s, those platforms can own any IO that we have. When we're talking about the Compact 5000, the Flex 5000, so that 5069 family, it will only work with the newer controllers. So if you have an L7, you have no option of being able to own that IO with the L7, but what you can do is mix and match your system. So if you got an L7 redundant system and you have a 5380, you can do producer consumer just fine. The IO needs to be owned by its similar type. So as long as it's the high performance controller on the top end, you can own whatever you want.
Okay, Flex 5000, this is going to be used in parallel to regular Flex IO. It's not going away. Size-wise, it's the same size. Parts are not interchangeable between the two. It is a completely different platform. Obviously, this is next-gen product. There's Flex IO is going to be around, I don't know, what, 5-10 years?
Mid-2020s.
Something. It's not going away anytime soon, but it's definitely something to look at. First of all, it addresses John's issue. This will be the first product that will have SFPs in the adapter model.
Very excited.
Yay. So this can sit directly on, we'll be able to sit directly on fiber, which is great. We've only been asking for this for 10 years. So you have only been asking for nothing. So, all right. Also special about this, it can be mounted vertically or horizontally, just like the old Flex item. They are developing safety product for it. See, the adapter's already been it. They want to make plastic, Jonathan, if they weren't the SFPs.
So you do have to pick which adapter you want. So there is no jump from a copper version to an SFP version without buying a different hardware platform. But if you have an SFP version, they also make SFPs that have copper, so you can decide after the fact. The other thing you also have to be aware of is depending on the adapter that you purchase, you can either do 8 IO modules or you can do 16. So there's 2 catalog numbers. But it does give you the ability now to be able to do up to a 16 chassis with Flex 5000.
Plus, yeah, and plus there are umbilicals for this too if you need to break the chassis. So that's another good thing about it. We were limited to 6 or 7 modules on regular Flex. So we're 8 to 16 here. So makes it really good cabinet remote IO. Just keep in mind how you're mounting it. And I really think this product's going to take off for sure.
Can you still not add IO live?
You can now.
Controller,
You can.
right? With Flex 5000.
With the 5000.
Okay.
If you can do it, if you can add the IO online now. So you can do removing certain underpower. One of the things that happens is now 3 pieces. So very similar to like Point IO, if you've done that, where you get the base on the back of it, you can now extend that and the module sits on top. So removing a module does not kill off power to the rest of the units. And it's no longer the little tab that everyone would break off trying to get the thing out. So it is closer to, again, Point IO or even the Compact 5000 where it sits and just ties in on the ends.
And it's not the pin and socket version of the old Flex, so the bent pins will be a thing of the past.
We know what modules are there, so don't take them.
Uh-oh.
Wrong button.
So this is the 5094 series.
Essentially, yes.
Yes, yes.
Got rid of this technology.
Okay. Yes, that is. I'm still getting used to the.
So I've mentioned it in the past. Rockwell loves 5000 for right now. So Studio 5000, Compact 5000, Flex 5000. If you look at the catalog strings, all the IO now started at 50. So it's 5094, 5069, 5380. So we'll use that interchangeably. So if you don't know what we're talking about, let us know.
So as you see, we have all the basic parts that have been out for a while. So
the main thing that we're going to be waiting for right now is PRP. If you notice on the handout that's going around, there's a little switch on the front that says DLR or PRP. It's going to be a firmware update when they release that. Right now, we're looking at March, April timeframe. That'll just be a firmware update to the IO. At that point, you can flip the switch, restart your system, and you'll be able to do LAN A, LAN B, just like we do on the EN2P card. And then the digital safety is going to be out at the end of March. So that's going to be your red variant that we can use with the guard Logix or the compact guard Logix in that new design. And we will have analog safety, but right now we're seeing that push back until at earliest would be the end of 2020.
I see universal.
Yeah. So similar to what we've done with Control Logix, where we're kind of added everything together.
All right. Yeah, Joseph.
I'm gonna try to show you some stuff. Visualization. Had to make a joke. So I think the majority of the product that's on the screen now we've had out for a while. Got our standard small stuff, the PanelView 800s, which are our entry level. Those work with the Micro 800s and the Micro Logix. And they also will work with the compact Logix, the 1769 versions, the L1, L2, and L3 series of those. They will not work with the 5069 at this point. So something to keep in mind. We have our PanelView Plus 7s. Notice there aren't any PanelView Plus 6s up here. There aren't any regular PanelView Pluses. We keep moving things along. The PanelView Plus 6 is the replacement for the standard PanelView Plus. It's been out for a while. I think everybody should know that at this point. The PanelView Plus 7 is new hardware based on the same platform as our PanelView 5500. So it's a very similar piece of hardware, but designed to work with FactoryTalk View. So this is a FactoryTalk View product. PanelView 5500 works with the Studio 5000 View Designer. So a little difference there. As we keep moving on in time, this product gets more and more filled out with functionality, capabilities, certifications, things that we need down here in order to be able to market it to a majority of our customers. And it is getting really close. So this is the point that's on the board now. Typically, we always would delete that from the slide or delete the slide. So just full disclosure. So the PanelView Plus 7 are going to be around for a while, and they pretty much cover everything except for high bright outdoor rated stuff like that. So they're going to be around for quite a while. And then we've got a new range of industrial computers that we've come out with. So we've refreshed our entire line of industrial computers a couple of years ago. And we've also come out with a full line of VersaView computers, which are more Intel Atom size processing power. So they're not as expensive as a full-blown computer. They give you just enough computing power.
Also, customers are choosing the 6 is out there, the 7 is actually an increase in price. If they're replacing the 6.
Correct. Any questions on the overview? All right. So we are coming out with a new product called ArmorView Plus 7. So it's a PanelView Plus with some buttons and stuff built into it. As you can kind of see from the back, it is all sealed. So you can put it out there. You don't need to put it into an enclosure. You just hang it out off the swing arm and you're good to go. So just kind of simplifying that design process for people that are putting panel views out on swing arms and stuff. And like I said, it's got a few built-in I/O points and configurable and a hardwired e-stop, just because most people like to have a stop now button, just in case.
I think we are going to have a mount for it, but it also, my understanding is it has a VESA mount on it. So if you have something that's just your standard like TV monitor mount, you can use that as well. If I remember, it looked like it was a 10-inch. I'm not sure if we're going to have multiple sizes. I think we'll probably end up having a few different options.
It's either going to be a 10 or a 12. So the PanelView 5510 is that new panel view that we've been talking about for 7+ years. That, like I said, we're finally getting to where I like it, is a product that I think that my customers would actually enjoy. And you know, it takes time to roll around all the features. We've had this FactoryTalk View product out here for a really long time. We keep adding features to it every year. Then we come out with a brand new software product, you know, FactoryTalk View Designer, and it takes a little while to roll most of those features in. And I think that we're finally to the point now that it's a viable product. And it works really well for, you know, single applications, stuff like that. It is Ethernet only, and it will talk to our controllers only. So there are still some limitations there, but it does have different graphics layouts, and it's in View Designer. So it's within the Studio 5000 portfolio.
And so David mentioned at the beginning of it, all the different families on the Studio 5000 platform. View Designer is what this ties into. So commercial wise, we no longer need to have two separate software packages, Studio 5000 and FactoryTalk View ME. When we're looking at this new style panel view, it's all within the Studio 5000 environment. And it uses Visual Studio in the background as the way that we do the programming. So big key there, you see that little button in the front. They're not supposed to call it a home button, but essentially you click that, it shows all your navigation. So a lot of the abilities of being able to get like usable space back on your screen is already built into it. And anything that you drop into the unit, you can put what's called binders around it. So all the animation styles that you can think of, you can tie that in directly to all of your tags that are inside of your control.
So it has come along a long way. The 5510 is class 1 Div 2. So that does meet some of our environmental needs down here. The next, you know, years down as we work into the next revision of HiBrite, it will be in this platform. So as of right now, there isn't any utility available to do any migrations or conversions from FactoryTalk View to Studio 5000 View Designer. I believe those are in the works. But for some new applications, smaller applications, it's something you could try. And you can play with it if you've got Studio 5000, because you've got access to View Designer. You could go in there and play around with it. So we can get you some labs. So the Studio 5000 View Designer, we have added a couple new features to it with version 5, mainly support for the new 5510 and 5310 models. We did an update to them for hardware. They went from the 5500 to the 5510. Extended controller support and the tag-based alarms, which we've already talked about. And then we've added in some additional productivity enhancements, which again, like taking advantage of the little button and stuff on the front. But the interface is a little different than this is the View Designer software interface here. And a drag and drop style, but you can group things together, create your own elements as a library, drag them in, and they work really well seamlessly with a lot of your code.
So if you guys are looking for a new PanelView application going forward, default should still be the PanelView Plus 7. So that's what to tell you the truth, that's what I'm comfortable with in process and in our industry. But looking forward, especially if you're on an LA style design on a newer software and you don't have a requirement for the process objects, that's a big limitation that we have with this product. If you're using the PlantPX process objects or anything similar to it, they do not exist in this newer platform. But if you're using an L8, you want to take advantage of the new alarming system that we're talking about. You don't have anything previous, so you don't have customers or yourself that has legacy panel views, and you want to take advantage of a newer system. The 5510 is to a point now that it does support 4 controllers. It's tied into Studio 5000, and all of our new utilities are coming out for it, and it currently does support Marine. So Joe kind of mentioned it. We are looking at a new HiBrite design that will be in the 5510 family. So if you want more information on it, or you think it might be a good fit, let us know. We'll get you as much information as we need.
We know the limitations. We understand the applications. So, you know, the manufacturing, OEM style applications, you know, they're very good for those. Anything outdoors, obviously not so much at the moment. Anything that's going into hazardous environments, that's a maybe. And then anything that we're doing with our PlantPAX, definitely wouldn't want to use this yet. But if you're, depending on what your application is, if you feel comfortable with it, just let us know and we'll make sure that you select the right one, and we'll help make sure that you don't run into any roadblocks on your application. So moving on, we have in the VersaView line, we've added a few products. So we've rolled back out to VersaView for everybody that hasn't been around for the last year or so, where we've been talking about VersaView products. We have a line of monitors, and then we also have a line of thin clients working with Thin Manager. And we've got some display thin clients that already have a display mounted to them, and then just standard box thin clients. And we also have a line of VersaView PCs, which I've already talked about a little bit, that are capable. They're very capable systems, good for like a VSE station. They're not a full like i7 processor doing a lot of workstation power, but typically you don't need that to run an HMI software. So they're really the right size. So recently we've released the dual display, the 4K dual display thin client. So this works with our Thin Manager product and is taken advantage of with all of the new Thin Manager capabilities. 4K displays allow you to basically put 4 displays on one actual monitor. So if you've got 2 4K monitors, you could really basically put 4 displays out there, 4 standard high definition displays. I'm losing some words for whatever reason. And so that would be what you'd really kind of look at this for. So we have a few customers that have been waiting for these. So very excited to have them out.
The one big example here is in most cases, everybody wants to do like a quad monitor setup for a control room. Instead of having to buy 4 separate monitors, you actually just buy one big 4K box, plug this in, and using our Thin Manager software, there's something called virtual screening and virtual tiling. What that allows you to do is actually treat one 4K monitor as 4 separate independent monitors. One cable, one connection, one piece of hardware, but you can put whatever you want and you can even split up each monitor into 25 little screens. So a lot of the time customers, what they're doing is putting the HMI in there, putting a camera system so they can see all the different connections to that. They're all independent, but if you're using one 4K monitor instead of a bunch of quad monitors.
This for FactoryTalk, or this can be used for all?
It could be used for anything, but it is specific to Thin Manager as far as the thin client software.
As far as just the overall display.
Yeah. So for it to work, one of the things that you'll notice whenever we do the little Thin Manager thing, it says Thin Manager ready. Quote unquote, what that means is it only works with Thin Manager. It is a Rockwell product, so if you guys are aware, we bought Thin Manager about 2 years ago, so we've integrated that in. I got a slide coming up that tells you some of the benefits that go with it. But you're able to use that with any software package, but the Thin Manager software itself is just an overlay, and think of it as a pointer system. So whether it's a mobile tablet, if you're doing thin clients, all of that works.
So Thin Manager allows you to do application management in the thin client device out at the end. So you can give somebody the applications that you want them to have and nothing else. So if they close all those applications out, it just automatically reopens those applications. You can't ever close out and get to the desktop. Or you could serve somebody a desktop. You can give them whatever content you want using Thin Manager. So that's server based. And then for whatever reason, one of these boxes ever fails, you hit it with a hammer like they did at one of our demos. Then you replace it with a new one. You're still where you work. You're in the middle of typing an email. You're still there because that was being done on the server. So that's a standard thin client type application. The 4K monitors make it really nice because you can get to that get a 65-inch 4K television and basically split it into 4 individual monitors. And it's the same as buying 4 separate monitors. We have another one coming out here shortly. So within the next couple of weeks, that is going to be capable of doing 7 monitors, which is pretty impressive. So for those that want to do 4K monitors, it'll be able to handle quite a few 4K monitors as well as just up to 7 monitors. So it's a quite capable box. At that point, we've got an i5 in that just because it's handling so much processing visually there.
Does this handle the mouse also?
Yes.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, essentially what this does is it replaces having to have a computer out in the field. So that USB that's in the front of it would be tied in. You can have one mouse own every single screen, and essentially you're just Built-in three.
Right. It's like an extended desktop.
You'd have one connected to this, and then if you wanted to be able to remote desktop into it.
Yeah, Byron, we don't have one of these, but we have an example of a thin client in our demo room over there. We can show you. But we essentially, it only does 2 tiling, but you can, yeah. So you only need 1 keyboard and 1 mouse.
So there's also capability within Thin Manager of sharing a mouse and keyboard across multiple thin clients. So you can have one, if you had like 2 of these side by side, you can share a mouse and keyboard.
Do those have a fiber plug, or do you need to have a?
Currently, right now, we only have for copper. I don't think we've done fiber direct, but if you have like a static switch, you can do fiber to that and then copper to the individual units. The idea here is this is a replacement for a full control room. So all of your, especially if you got a bunch of big screens that go across the top, most of the time there's a computer tie-in or VGA cables or HDMI cables everywhere. You're essentially replacing that with one box that nobody has to touch. But you can also have this set up. So one of the nice things about it is as soon as it turns on, you can tell it what screens you want everywhere and you can shadow it back from a remote unit. So it makes things life a lot easier. I have no idea.
That one is not really.
Literature available.
Literature is available, and we have something to show here right now for everything from, except for the last one. So the last one will be out January, so by next month, we'll have that one, and we'll have literature for it as well.
The dual 4K is just under 1400.
Okay.
List price.
And this is our list of thin clients that are available right at the moment, so you can scale based on what your application is. If you only need 1 display, we've got ones just for single display. And we have some that are already mounted to the back of monitors as well.
And none of those have any operating system whatsoever. So you plug it in, all it's going to do is ask for an IP address and tie into the Thin Manager server that's on your actual server box. So if you guys need anything, we have like a little the carry around demo case. And then we are looking at doing a training for Thin Manager come summertime frame. So we'll let you guys know about that when we get more information on it.
Have you virtualized?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can get rid of all anything that I have on remote panels and you have a thin client.
Yep.
These are the new updates for View 11. So some of the new improvements to Trend Pro. We've also added in the capability of being able to pull in the OSI Pi data into Trend Pro for historical data purposes. So we've cleaned some of those things up. We've also added in some partial download detection and things for Recipe Pro. We've done a little bit in the on the MER side of being able to do version info within the application manager. Tying in for some mobility here for being able to do command support for FactoryTalk alarm and events. So this is, I know it's a bit of an eye chart. I don't want to explain every single one of these to you, but there are a lot of little updates that we have done here, including audits. And then really the biggest one that is at this point is a support, is kind of a dual support between FactoryTalk View and Thin Manager. But we also, before I talk about that, since it's right up here in the corner, Asset Center, we can now pull in stuff from Asset Center into FactoryTalk View. So we have got the capability of pulling in a little bit of information there. With Thin Manager and FactoryTalk View, we now have the capability of licensing all of your images out at the individual client. So for those that have had a Thin Manager system or were wondering about how the licensing works on that with FactoryTalk View, typically when you have a computer and you open up FactoryTalk View SE, I can open up as many instances of it as I want, and one license covers it because I'm logged in as me. When we get into Thin Manager, you have to actually have separate logins in order for it to handle that type of remote connection. So it was resulting in if I had 4 displays, 4 FactoryTalk View SE displays on one thin client, it would actually eat up 4 view licenses. We've fixed that here. So now with Thin Manager, the most recent release of Thin Manager and FactoryTalk View 11, those two combine to give us the capability of saying 1 license for every Thin Manager terminal. So every one of those thin clients. So for views for server client systems. So we cleaned that up to cut down on the licensing. Before we've done special stuff where we would give a lot of extra licenses out for free because we knew how you were using them.
So you guys should also be aware of the fact that we have the bundle licensing for FactoryTalk View SC on the server side. So some of you don't end up using that many clients, but if you do, we have a bundle that gives you the unlimited SE server from a distributed point of view and 10 runtime clients. So that's everything put together, and it's essentially around 15,000 list price. So when we're looking at that, especially when we're tying into Thin Manager, that becomes a nice feature set there. And the big thing that we always take away, like Joe said, we're licensing the box. We're not licensing the number of connections that we're actually creating. So when we start looking at that one thin client box, even though it might have 4 individual screens attached to it or one big 4K with multiple monitors on there, that is only one license. And now instead of having to do something on the commercial side of it, it is built into the product, so we don't have to do anything.
So it's strictly platform license, platform.
Essentially. So what allows you to do is anything on the FactoryTalk side will tie into it. So in Thin Manager, because of the fact that we can support anything, if it's tied in with Rockwell, you get all of the benefits in there, including all the licensing structure and how we would do multiple monitors. Does that answer the question, or you got? You want to answer?
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay.
So one of the, I'd say, as I was reading through all of the notes on all of the cool stuff that Manager 11 comes out with, licensing is obviously the one that is, I think, the most effective. The second one to me is actually the USB badge reader piece, just because you can now basically use any badge reader that acts as a keyboard type input and scan in. So that is a nice new feature that's been added. But we've also added in a couple other pieces with .NET to be able to do some additional things behind the scenes, allowing you to do things behind the scenes with that. But like I said, it's all there. We have added tiling and a couple other pieces into the Android and Apple versions of Thin Client, of Thin Manager. So you can walk around with your phone and have a tiled screen the same as you would on your Thin Client. So you can monitor that. I believe it's back to
me, yeah. Thanks, Joe. Okay, so to kind of wrap up today, we'll do a network infrastructure update and then address any questions you may have. So as most of you probably know, but I know there's since there's some new folks, we'll go ahead and go over this again. Rockwell has the Stratix line of switches, and it's a full line all the way from the unmanaged switches, the Stratix 2000s, into the lightly managed Stratix 2500s, and then you have the full managed switches, the 5700 and 5400s, etc. So that's the kind of the network line. There's also a Stratix security appliance, the 5950, that's out there that does that sits inside the OT network that will do deep packet inspection, that kind of stuff for us. And then on the slide has the 1756. I think that's probably for the new Ethernet module we talked about today, the EN4TR that has built-in SIP security in that. So towards man-in-the-middle attacks without having to have a security appliance is a big thing there. So that's the portfolio. The Stratix technology is based on Cisco technology. So there are some on the managed switches, the 5400s, the 5700s. You can use the Cisco CLI interface to program these. But inside Studio 5000, there's also add-on procedures that allow you to configure these modules if you don't want to do the interfaces. So this is another way of showing the switch, just specifically the switch portfolio. So what we have that's new here, you can see coming soon. That's the Stratix 5800. So in between the 5700 and the 5400, I would say. What's new about this 5800? It's modular, so you can slap extra ports onto it. It's also all gigabit based. So one of the themes today, when we talk about new products with Rockwell, the Flex 5000, the compact Logix new Ethernet module, and the 1500, everything's going gigabit. So that's where we're moving in that direction.
So the main thing that you guys are going to see is we are going to do end of life on the Stratix 8000. So we got a slide that shows that a little bit more, but essentially the one right next to the 5800, that was our modular switch. It was probably the oldest Stratix that we had that was managed. We're finally, within the next 18 months or so, you'll start seeing all of the information come out. So the 5800 will be our replacement for that product. So as that one comes out, you'll start seeing more information on the 8000. So a majority of you that I've talked to are no longer using the 8000, but if you do have that in your designs, we'll start looking at the 57, the 54, and potentially the 58 if you need that modular style design.
Okay, so, and this is the slide, so I won't restate the 8000 end of life, but with the 5800, this first release, it's going to be a layer 2 access switch only. However, there are plans to add layer 3 distribution functionality to it. Like I said before, all gigabit ports, expandable up to 26 ports. So new Cisco operating system, et cetera, et cetera. So we're excited to have this this new line to replace the 8000.
So what's this IE is this 800 model?
Do you know that?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to research that. It's just
I know
not sure
we
what
got
it is.
2000, 3000, 4000. I'm assuming it's the 4500, but I'm not positive.
It'll be pretty easy. We'll give you extra points if you text us the answer. If you go to their website and see the dark gray version of this, you've nailed it.
I'm still trying to figure that part out.
Anyway, like Luis said, 5800 is going to be a lot more compact space wise versus the 8000, so we save on that panel space going forward. So last topic today is another piece of software you may not have heard of called FactoryTalk Network Manager. Network Manager was released last year. Currently, we are on release 1.5, so it's still an early product. What does Network Manager do? Well, it provides you network kind of graphical network visibility. I'm sorry, what? Representation. It also allows you to troubleshoot your switches, so alarms on switches, that kind of thing. Audit Trail has access to that, and can also do configuration and maintenance on your switches. So
All the Stratix support?
Stratix and Cisco.
And Cisco, Stratix and Cisco support, supports obviously Ethernet IP, SIP. It also supports Modbus TCP, Profinet, ACNet, I believe, were the other protocols. So this kind of software has been around in the IT world for a long time. This software was specifically designed for OT type of.
It will find Hirschman switches, but it'll make the magic smoke come out. No, but so what it does also, anything that's SNMP, it will find the unit, and it will even find down to the individual controllers. So it'll find everything that's there, but if it is a Rockwell, Stratix, or a Cisco, you'll be able to do read-write to it. So you can configure the switch. Anything that's non-Rockwell, you won't be able to do anything to it. You'll just be able to see and monitor that it's there.
You get the MAC ID or
Yeah. There are a few things that you have to do at the switch level to enable the topology. Essentially, it's like turning on SNMP on the switch. It is a pretty easy step, but you do that. We are selling this as a subscription. So what that means is we sell you a node license for the managed switch. That enables you to do the read-write. If you don't have that, the free version of it at least allows you to see the topology. It would not allow you to read-write. If you have a toolkit, so any of my OEMs or SIs, your toolkit comes with 10. So one of the use cases that I've heard, not necessarily from an end user, so if you're an end user, you put this on your system, you're able to look at this, see the alarming, see the information. The 1.5 that you see here now allows you to DLR. So you can do now the backnet bridging and go all the way down through a DLR, whether it's an E into TR or via the switch. But from an SI OEM thought process, you guys can use this on your laptops as a commissioning tool. So if you use your toolkit and license the 10 nodes on the box, you can run a VM and be able to go and at least visually see what network you're working on. So just a concept in case you guys are interested in using it, you can download it off our website for free. But to be able to do the read-write into the switch, you buy the node license count. We do that as a subscription every year. It's about $50 a switch. You don't have to care about the individual devices. You only care about the switches. So if you got 10 switches and you got like 200 devices, it's only 10 nodes that you're licensing. And because it's per year, that comes with support. You can go up and down as much as you need to.
1.5 release, I think, so 1.6, there's some enhancements to DLR that will be coming out. Stratix 5800 support will be coming out. Some other stuff that's pretty much.
And if anybody wants to see it live, I don't know if you guys ever got it working here, but
We haven't installed it yet.
so they're going to work on it here. Zachary at my facility got it set up with my lab. So if you guys have all gone to visit the Integrated System Center, we got a bunch of Stratix switches across the wall. We now have Network Manager running so that you can see the topology and see where the virtual images are, where the connections are to the IO cards. It is pretty nice and pretty sweet to being able to see the visual side of it. Asset Center normally would give you some representation on what you have from all of your assets. This gives you the visual.
Okay, so we're almost wrapping up here. A couple more things left. This is tentative schedule for the rest of the year. Looks like April, we're gonna have version, Studio 5000 version 32. You can kind of look in that and see, we welcome participation throughout the year and we appreciate you guys' support. Before we stop, though, we would like to hand the clicker over to our controls specialist, Kevin Peterson. He's got a couple of things he'd like to show you guys, and then we'll finish up right on time.
And while he's setting up, I do want to point out, ProSoft will be doing our March user group meeting. One thing we asked them about, 10, 15 years ago, almost like SFP modules on the controller chassis, was a flow computer for the compact Logix. That's supposed to be available this month. So we'll be showing that off in March.
Okay, thanks for your time. Kevin Peterson, Industrial Control Specialist, Rentals Company. I wanted to basically make sure you're all aware of the new push, the terminal block that we come out with. 1492P, it's actually a push-in terminal. And which one clicks?
Just left mouse click, left mouse click, left mouse click.
He does push buttons, he does not use mouse.
Okay, right here on the screen, and as you can see there, the push-in technology, basically you have a new terminal block where it's not screw down. You have the ability to take your wire and directly insert into this terminal block, and it will hold that. You can see the spring-loaded clamp there, and it actually has a copper basing around it to take it to the bus bar. It'll work with solid wire, which you don't use much. It'll work with ferrules, of course, and of course it'll work with the stranded wire as well. So all three wires will work. To put the stranded wire in, you have to take a screwdriver and push the actuator down, push it in, and let go, and it's done. As opposed to taking your screw and having to torque that screw down to a certain number and turn it many times, and then have the ability of that screw coming out possibly loosen it up for vibration. This is absolutely vibration resistant and will not affect it. Certification CEUL, CSA, ATEX, ICX, and also Marine certifications as well. So.
Use it like a mouse.
Some left-handed, some hold up there. Okay, the big deal here is the efficiency of doing this. You can save time if you're doing thousands of terminal blocks. You'll save 5 to 10 seconds per terminal block putting this in. And over time, that can be several hours of manpower you're paying to do these terminal blocks. Okay, one-hand insertion, like I said. No strings breaking if you torque it down too much, that screw. Low insertion force, and also it's front facing. The terminal blocks themselves, a lot of terminal blocks, you come in from the sides to wire. These go right in the top. Here's a picture of the terminal blocks, and I have samples up here that show that. Regular terminal blocks, if y'all are interested in looking at this, come by and take a look at when we finish up here. There's several different sizes. They're all multiple layers at the 4 different levels of these terminal blocks. And a terminal block for every day, for every application as well. So it is basically a direct replacement for our J series. And the good thing about that is the list price is actually lower than our J series on these push-ins. In most manufacturers, it's a premium of at least 10 to 15%. Go ahead and hit that slide for me. One more. Along with the terminal blocks, we also have power distribution, where you can take the power supply inside your panel, hook it up, wire it up, and you have points to take off of that aren't real crowded. So that's another thing, power distribution in a very small package for this. And last in the line is sensor blocks. They also make 3 different styles of sensor blocks for the different wiring if you bring sensors back to your panel, straight into the block. So benefits, like I say, once again, it is UL tested, and basically they take 2 wires and they stick in and they pull them apart. The terminal block will actually break before the terminals come out of the socket. Don't know if you are using ferrules, but it's highly recommended to have ferrules for these. Some of the larger shops will use ferrules. They have the machine you stick in to get a ferrule out. But if not, you can use it with straight wire as well, with a screwdriver. So I have samples up here. I have some brochures you can take back. Just get the word out. If you have a shop manager over panels, if you do that kind of work, just if you want to take a sample, drop it on the website. Hey, take a look at this product. Here's the sheet that goes with it. It explains it, just to get out in the open. So any questions about this?
You remove the wire?
Basically, there's an actuator, and you just take a screwdriver, and you push this little plastic actuator, and it lets the wire go. And it is plastic, it's not metal, so if you have to worry about getting shocked by touching metal, you don't have that, so you have something that's totally isolated. The other thing is test plugs. There are test plugs on every single terminal block, testing circuits on here. And they're center jumpers. Each one has 2 jumpers available down the middle. So you can jump as you want to, different colors, and 2 different jumpers for every block as well. So new product is starting to pick up with some people. A lot of people don't want the push in because they think it's going to come out. And that's the whole big mindset in this area is if I screw it down, I can torque it, I know it's not going anywhere. It's actually opposite because as far as the vibrations, the push in is much better.